Yeah, because, well,
There you go.
Commissioner, we have a form, so you can start whenever.
now, how do we do this?
Call to order.
I don't just, okay. Call to order and then the regular meeting of the,
And the time.
call to order 4:30 PM. And the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission of City of Coachella. And then pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Debbie, would you like me to do roll call or? And our clerk will take care of roll call.
roll call.
Yes, our clerk will.
Commissioner Granados,
Present.
Commissioner Caballero,
Present.
Commissioner Avila,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Gallegos,
Present.
and alternate Commissioner Ayala.
Approval of agenda at this time, the commission may announce any items being pulled from the agenda or continue to another date or request the moving of an item on the agenda. First.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second, motion to approve the agenda.
Commissioner Granados,
No. Hey,
Commissioner Caballero,
Yes.
Commissioner Avila,
aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Yes,
Commissioner Gallegos,
Yes.
and alternate Commissioner Ayala. Motion passes.
we move on to the approval of the minutes.
So the approval of the minutes,
You'll need a first and a second for approval of the minutes as well.
Commissioner Hernandez will motion the first one.
second.
And Chair, you can, for these items, I think we usually can also do all those in favor.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
And then any opposed? Any opposed?
Any opposed?
I didn't hear ayes from everyone.
Okay. And then
There'll be meeting minutes of May 16, 2023 of the Parks and Recreation Commission and presentations.
yes, thank you, Commissioner Avila. Moving on to item number 2, then, most of these items were updates that the commission asked. So if you'll bear with me, I'll go through each one and then take questions as you guys have them, so we can have them dialogue on each of the items. Jason, can you? Thank you.
No, I know.
So our current park use fee, I'm going to go through some of the history on it, but technically at this time, the council has opted to set the fee at 0. So there really is no fee at this point for any park use. They do still need to pull their permit so that we can make the reservation and place that on calendar and go through the permit process, but there is no fee. There is still a deposit based for any reservation that involve any like soccer goals, just to ensure if there's any damage to the equipment, we can recover at least the deposit. And then there is a deposit also for the picnic shelters. So like, families that want to have a birthday party, we ask for $100 deposit per shelters to ensure that if there's any damage to the shelter or if there's significant amount of trash and debris that is resulting from that party that wasn't picked up, then that helps to, obviously recover some of those expenses. I'll go through our user fee, was adopted that we have in place right now, was adopted in 2011. And this is the fee schedule. Currently, essentially, it is $8 per hour per field. It's the red items, I think, are a little, they're highlighted so that it kind of brings your attention primarily to those. Those are the most commonly used fee rentals. And then the park lighting, in addition to the $8 per hour per field, is $18 if lighting is required. So it's $26 per hour per field if they're renting a field that requires lighting in the evenings, basically. And the stage reservation is another one that is used pretty frequently. And that is the only stage that we have is the one at Veterans Park. And it's $187 for the entire day. It includes power access. Park usage in other circumstances, in case someone wanted to reserve the park for an event or for other family needs. We've also had businesses reserve a segments of the park. The fee would be $31.50 per hour. And again, these are the park use fees. This would be the max that the council could adopt at this time, based on the fee schedule that was approved in 2011. And currently, council has opted to waive, reduce the fee to zero. And they've asked that this item be returned to them for review on an annual basis. This slide is a comp of other agencies in the valley and their fees for field use. You can see that Coachella is very competitive in this, and it's the lowest essentially valley-wide. Palm Springs is at 54 per hour per field. Palm Desert is at 30. La Quinta is at 25. Indio has they have a day permit, and it's at $100 per day. Desert Rec is at $15 per hour per field. Coachella is at $8. For lighting, Palm Springs is at 34. DHS is at 50. Palm Desert is at 30. La Quinta is at 15. And Indio is included in the permit, the day rate permit. And Desert Rec is at $30 per hour, and Coachella is at 18. Included in this update, I wanted to include the community field use days and the public field use days. Community field use days are days where lights are on fields at each park. These were actually days that were community driven. So there were members of our community that came and asked for days to be available for anyone that wanted to come and use the park fields. Lighting would be available. So it is on a first come first serve basis, but permits are also issued on these days. So if there's someone that wants to reserve a field, we do take that reservation. And then that reservation supersedes, obviously, the first come first serve option for these days for community field use days. So on community field use days, we have lights on all fields at Bagduma with the exception of field 3 and 4. And field 3 and 4 are the two fields at Bagduma that have the football goalposts. And so Mondays and Wednesdays, everything's on at Bagduma except those two fields. And then Fridays and Saturdays, everything is on. And at Las Flores, it's the same scenario. All fields are on Tuesdays, but different days, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And these were days that were selected between the public's input and then also with collaboration with the two leagues that play at both of those parks. And now we also have public use days, which are slightly different in that we do not entertain any reservations on these days and times, so that these days and times are set aside for really just the community to come and have access to the park. So it is a first come first serve basis only on these. There are no reservations allowed on these days. We don't take reservations from the leagues on these days or the public. So at Bagduma on Fridays, field 3, which is the field where Baghdad and Duma intersect. kind of that cul-de-sac. That field, on Fridays, we don't rent it. On Saturdays and Sundays after 2, that same field is that public use field. And at Las Flores Field 1, which is the one closest to the restrooms and the snack bar, that field is the public use field on Wednesdays, and on Saturdays and Sundays equal to Bagduma after 2. So in the mornings, it still allows for games, but in the afternoon, it is a public use field. And that does conclude my presentation on park use fees. I'm happy to entertain questions the commission may have on that, on this presentation.
No questions. You said that there's no fees right now, right?
No, the fee is currently
Zero.
0.
And then the deposit, I mean, is that, it varies or is there?
There is a deposit per league of $1,000 per season.
Okay,
And usually we just roll it to the next season is I think how we've done it probably this last time. That is the deposit amount for sports leagues. For individual rentals, it's the $100 I mentioned per field. Or as I mentioned, for the park shelters, it's $100. For the large shelter, I will just also comment, we have a large shade structure at Bagduma that used to be basketball courts. It's if anyone's attended our 4th of July event, it's where we put the stage and it has lights. It's a pretty large structure. That one, and there's also another large kind of combined structure by the splash pad at Bagduma near 51. Those 2 are larger, so we will usually ask for a $300 deposit because it's more than the standard size area.
if people usually rent those out for like parties, that big shaded area.
We have had
Nice.
several rentals of both.
Nice.
Okay, I have a question, well, it might be regarding that. You know how we have the snack bar? Have we ever thought about like renting it out to someone to be open more? Like as in, it's a company coming in and, you know, opening the snack bar. Because I've been to the park and sometimes there is other people selling, but I mean, the snack bar, and I think at one point the snack bar was open more, right? Or,
So the
Was
snack
it-
bars currently are provided to the leagues as part of their access to the park and their ability to then fundraise. So if we are going to rent it to other people, we would be removing some of their access from that snack bar area, and they would be required to have to remove their items. The challenge will be that turnover.
so they do open it like in the back.
They do open it and they do house some food products in there.
Oh, okay.
No other questions? Would you like me to go on to the?
Yeah.
Item number 3 is the memorandum of understanding between the city and the sports leagues update. And this item was primarily to give the commission overview. The MOU dictate essentially every league's access to the sports areas within both of our parks. And so I'll go through some of the highlights of this and the history. The city started talking with our leagues back in 2007. And just to give you history, back in 2007, we really only had one sports park, and it was Bagduma. And Bagduma actually was about 2/3 the size that it currently is. We had 34 acres at that park, and now we're at about 50. So to give you an idea, we only had two soccer fields. We had the one football field, and it wasn't light. Lighting was not a component of that field. So we had a lot of challenges with soccer use and baseball use and conflicts of basically of limited space, right? So that's why the MOU discussion kicked off. So that discussion began, and probably closer to 2009, 2010, we had the first MOU ratified, and it included all of the leagues that we had at that time. And at that time, we had 6 leagues. So we had 2 for baseball, softball, 2 for American football, and 2 for soccer. Currently, we actually have 4. So it's changed over the last 12 years. And I'll go through, the highlights are kind of listed here. So in 2012, we amended almost once a year, honestly, because there's always some kind of living change to how our fields are being used by our community. In 2012, we added the Las Flores Park. That was when it was built. And then 2013, we added language that required our sports leagues to have a nonprofit standing, right? So 501(c)(3) that is accurate and active. And in 2014, we added Bagduma Field 4 when it was constructed. In 2015, we did various items here. We added Field 5 and 6, which are the fields on Frederick Street at Bagduma. And then we also added basically a requirement to go through a financial audit on a biannual basis due to some concerns that were posed by the community. And that's been an ongoing practice. Also requires that the sports leagues to obtain their annual business license. And it limited season play to a total of 9 months per year. In 2016, the soccer league at that time, which was Coachella Valley Desert Soccer League, which is different than the leagues that we have in the MOU today, was removed due to a revoked nonprofit status. In 2020, Coachella Valley Soccer League was added as a party to the MOU. And in 2022, Bagduma Field 4 was brought into the MOU as accessible by both of the soccer leagues during the summer use. So it kind of increased their access to field use because generally their season is 9 months only. And it allowed them basically kind of a year-round use through a shared approach on this field. In 2023, one of the youth American football leagues was removed due to not responding. So they just kind of fell off. And as a result, they were removed from the MOU. Again, as I mentioned, the primary function of the MOU is to provide some parameters about access and to what areas of the parks that they have access during their season. The baseball season runs February through May, and they have the Bagduma fields essentially, and that's Coachella Youth Baseball and Softball Association is our organization that we work with for programming at Bagduma. Football, American football is July through November. So they'll be ramping up pretty soon. And we only have one league that provides services at this time in that sport. And that's the Coachella Little Arabs Youth Football Organization. And for soccer, their season is November through July. And we have two leagues. We have Coachella Youth Sports Association Soccer and Coachella Desert Soccer League. And just as a high level overview, excuse me, we did include a copy of the MOU on the dais for the commission, but this is just to give you high level, right, of like the different sections in that MOU. Section 2 is probably like the recitals, and section 2 are probably what we go off of the most. And section 2 really lays out what access and what fields each of the leagues had access to during their season and reiterates their season. Section 4 speaks to the requirement that they must maintain and have an active and current nonprofit status as identified by the IRS. And section 5 requires that they provide us general liability insurance that covers the city and also requires them to pull a business license. Section 7 speaks to record keeping and that they must maintain bookkeeping records and allow us access to those. Section 8 speaks to user fees, but really it just refers them to the adopted user fee. So it's a really short, brief segment there. Section 9 speaks to the financial audit, and it speaks to that they're required to participate in and also obtain a passing score, right? That showing due diligence in their financing approaches and practices. Section 19 is a new party requirement. And it speaks primarily this came about as a result of when we had one of the soccer leagues drop off due to not being able to sustain an active nonprofit status. So discussion was had about how would we go about entertaining a new party. And this really, so the way that we would entertain a new party would be if there is a vacancy in a sport or no provider of a youth sport. For example, if we ended up with no baseball youth sport, right? And then we would entertain somebody in that, an agency that would be willing to provide that. And the way that we view capacity is really two. So anything over two, obviously, you know, we would not need, there would be no vacancy. Anything that's under two, then that would potentially provide some vacancy if there's still access that we would be able to share. Mainly, we don't want to create a circumstance in which we have more users out there than we have space, because that always leads to challenges. And the league that applies would have to have been active and in operation for at least 3 years. So that way they have some history and they can show us due diligence and their practices, right? They would also need to meet various financial audit requirements that are already required of those that are in the MOU, and show that for 3 consecutive years. So that is kind of a high level overview of the MOU. And included in the MOU is also some of the maps that I think we included there. That's part of the MOU, but also we included a separate one that has the fields labeled. That is just a 2-pager, and that kind of references the numbers that we use very commonly for each of the field numbers. And so this is a full build out design of Las Flores Park that was done in 2011, 2012. We really are only at about halfway. So if from my left to about the middle, that's what's built out. It's the 3 fields, the 3 soccer fields, and the picnic tables and shelters that basically kind of bookend both of those, all 3 of those fields. And this is Bagduma built out. The A and B is where the baseball fields are. C, all the C's, and the D is where all of the soccer fields are. And with that, that does complete my presentation on that item. I'm happy to answer questions on that item.
So in the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned that we had more organizations, and so now we have less, but more fields. Is that correct?
We do.
Are these organizations, are they larger? Are they just larger organizations?
They have, I think that what we found is that the organizations that are that have been better able to recruit have recruited more members of our community, right? And so the other organization didn't have as many players, and eventually started to not do as well, to be fair, at least for baseball and for football. That's essentially what we've seen. Because those are the 2 sports in which they've fallen off.
Yeah.
I have a question. I was looking at the MOU here on item 2.2, because it outlines for 2.1 area A and B for exhibit 1, which I was able to identify. But when I look at Rancho Las Flores, it says C1, C2, C3. Is it safe to say that F1, F2, F3 are the same thing as C1, C2, C3?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think on the exhibit, though, they are labeled up.
Because I was looking at the simplified version and it says F1, F2, F3. And then when I looked at the actual master plan, it says 6, 6, 6, 7.
So on this one, it does print out C1, C2.
Do I have
C3.
that one? I don't think I have that.
It's
Yeah, I
on,
don't have-
it's the MOU itself.
Okay. So it's in the MOU.
Yeah, the last.
Beautiful. Thank you. So it is F1, F2, F3 from the simplified version.
Yeah, like field 1, field 2,
Field 2,
field
field
3.
3.
That's why. we
Okay,
put F there,
Awesome,
but,
thank you.
On the MOU, they're labeled C, and that corresponds to the language in the MOU.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I don't remember from the last time, but when have any updates on finishing up Rancho Las Flores, the 2 soccer fields? Due to the fact that I see that it would be really benefiting, actually, at the moment is how much we have. And I know they've been going on about issues adding the other league to add another field to them. So have you had any updates on that?
I don't have too much update on that at this time. We have been continuously submitting to the state for park funds to complete that park. The challenge is that because half of the park is built, most of the grant funds are designed for new park space that are in areas that are park poor. So that's kind of where we get kind of tied up essentially, because when they do the radius, there's really nowhere to put that dot that the rest of the park is not going to populate. So that's kind of our challenge. There was a grant that we were able to submit for that allowed us to still submit, even though it was to complete parks that are kind of partially done. And we did get a visit from the state, so we did obviously score decently because we resulted in a state visit, which usually is kind of shows that you scored pretty well. However, we have not been awarded a grant for the completion of Las Flores Park yet. So we continue to look for that. We are talking about, kind of like $7 to $10 million to complete. There's still 13 acres there. So we will continue to push forward in that direction. But that's kind of the number one struggle that we kind of face, is that all the park grants do not allow that eligibility because it's not going to populate as an area that's park poor, which means that it has to not have a park in a 1 mile radius.
Do we usually pay for parks through grants?
Yes.
That's how it should.
We pay through parks in two ways. It's either through Park Diff.
Mm,
So that Park Diff, excuse the abbreviation, is Park Development Impact Fee.
Mm.
And those are fees that are collected from development. So primarily housing and, new businesses as they come through, primarily housing. But Las Flores Park was built with grant funding. A majority of Bagduma was also built out with grant funding. So yes, I think Veterans Park was built with Park Diff. It was a remodel. So new park spaces do well with grants.
Yeah.
Improvements to existing, then is where we usually use Park Diff because those don't compete well.
Understood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sure, if you're okay, I'll move on to the next item. This item, we had a lot of discussion on this item last time, so I thought to provide you an update on activity on the Parks and Recreation Foundation. And a little bit of brief background as to the makeup of the foundation. Any applicant is eligible to apply for this program once annually, and it is for our youth. Scholarships are provided on a first come, first served basis during a calendar year. So from January to December, anyone can apply once and they are approved. As long as they can show proof that they are a Coachella resident. And then they also submit with that an invoice of some sort from the recreation program that they participated in, and then we will reimburse them 50% of that up to $75. And we currently do have a cap. We were originally, when we started this program, we just wanted to make sure that there was equity so that not one program would be like sucking up a significant amount of the funds available. It started at $10,000 balance, and we haven't had that problem, to be very honest. You'll see in my next slide that we got a little bit close in 2022 up to 20 annually, but we haven't exceeded it at all. And if we ever did, we would come back to the commission to up that bracket. As our intention is obviously to promote recreation through this program. We just wanted to make sure that there was equity in how it was being dispensed. We approved a total of 32 scholarships in the last calendar year. And you can see the distribution here of the different organizations, participants that took advantage of it. Desert Rec had 3, Little Arab 16, which is American football, and the youth baseball and softball association had 13. So we still have a healthy balance year end at a little over 16,000. And I know that another partner is looking to also contribute to the foundation this year. So hopefully that'll go up a little bit more. So we definitely have the ability to help more youth recreate with Coachella.
We didn't have any for the soccer.
We didn't.
And how many per league? Is it
20.
20 per league?
Up to 20,
Up
we
to
can
20.
increase it if we need, if we needed to, but we haven't got there.
I think we should be able to get more of the people involved now, definitely.
And you'll see like the reason that you see, I think, Little Arabs and baseball submit so many is because you got to keep in mind, so the registration for soccer is like 40, 45 bucks. And the registration for football is 250. So, yeah, that's a big, the big difference in the cost that they're putting forth.
Have you guys ever considered making this available to some of the amateur boxers at the Coachella Boxing Club?
Do they, I guess the reason we can talk to them about it, we would be open to it if there's, do they have to pay to register to
So
box? I didn't
when
think that they
when
did.
They travel, they have to get a license. I don't know what that exact amount is. But yeah, they do have to pay, and that usually has to come
But
from the
who are they
parents.
paying?
The USA Commission, the USA Boxing Commission.
And how much is that?
I would have to find that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, I think we could entertain that. I don't see a problem with that. I think that the reason that I don't think that the boxing club charges for use, because that's been the relationship, right?
Yes.
The city has provided the venue.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't think we thought that there was a fee for that.
When they want to travel, to go to shows and compete, they do have to pay. Yeah.
So I think that would open up a little bit of a different door because all of our leagues have travel organizations. So I think that if we're gonna be, because then you're not refunding the money to it's not a registration from the organization, it's a fee from another agency. So that would be up to the commission if you guys want us to bring that back and amend that, because then it would not be a program that they're doing through our like Coachella-based organization, right? That's a fee for
That makes
augmented.
sense. That makes
Coming
sense.
back to the community.
You're welcome. That does conclude my presentations at this time, Chair. I think our next item is from,
I have a question back
Oh.
on the scholarship, real quick.
yes,
So my son, he's like I was discussing before that my son, he does training as a goalkeeper, which is from Brudos, and he used to have it here before, which I don't know why he ended up going out to La Quinta. So I kind of talked to him, hey, maybe bring it back to Coachella just because of there's more kids out here for soccer as well too, and a lot of kids want to train as a goalkeeper. Now, if I want to talk to him and see if he's able to qualify for a program for scholarship, because it's $80 a month with him, how will he have to go to see if we could get him into this program, or if it's even possible?
is he affiliated with one of our leagues?
Honestly, I don't.
So if he was affiliated with one of the leagues, and the league would issue a receipt for the program to the child. And then they bring that with their application and we would reimburse them half of that cost.
Yeah, because I'll talk to him just because I'm trying to bring him back over here to Coachella as well.
And that would be for the kiddos, right? But for his costs, separate from this, which is not something that is managed through our department. But we do have a community-based grant that is $4,000 a year. Eligible one time a year, similar kind of format in the sense of one time a year, right? It's usually for nonprofits. And they are eligible to apply. There's a bucket of 15,000 that's set aside for these for applicants. And once it's gone, it is gone. But that is an available source of funding to help maybe the program itself.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that application is available online. Also, it's through the grants division.
Yeah.
With that, I'd like to introduce Alma Esteves, who is the president of CISA, who was going to give us an update regards to their program.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alma Rosa Esteves, presidente de la Liga CISA Soccer League de aquí de Coachella. Ya tenemos desde el 2009 hasta la fecha. Y mil disculpas, mi inglés es muy bajo. Ojalá que me entiendan todos. ¿Alguna pregunta, Marisa? El reporte que quieres que dé, las preguntas que me que me mandaron a decir. Ok, aquí en la, dice cantidad de equipos o cuota de equipos. Adultos se reciben $100 por registro de equipo, pero eso es para darles una premiación monetaria, porque ya los adultos ya no se conforman con un trofeo ni una medalla, ya quieren algo monetario. Entonces, para eso pedimos los $100 y les damos la premiación. Y ellos pagan $20 por cada torneo. Tenemos 2 torneos en el año, el de otoño y el de verano. Y luego los niños son $40 por niño cuando se registran a tiempo. Ya cuando se registran tarde son 45. Igual, es para los 2 torneos de verano y de otoño. Y cuando ya se registran, por ejemplo, hay equipos que tienen un club. Se les llama club porque tienen niños de la 16, de la 17. Nosotros como liga trabajamos por año. Entonces, casi el mismo equipo sube a la 16. De la 16 hay niños que suben a la 15 y así sucesivamente. Y cuando tienen ese tipo de niños que juegan hasta en 3 divisiones, nada más se les cobra $5 por la credencial. Así que si ven muchos niños, pero no todos pagan lo mismo. Cuando los niños juegan en varias categorías, pues es lo que pagan $5 para no estar pagando $40 en cada categoría. Ok. Y el número que incluye con el registro la pregunta es, ¿qué incluye con el registro del equipo? Con el registro del niño incluye las medallas, los 2 trofeos, incluye los 2 torneos de verano y de otoño, ¿sí? Y la aseguranza es secundaria. La aseguranza pagan mínimo, pero cubre primero la aseguranza de los niños y enseguida la aseguranza. Si no tiene aseguranza, entonces nosotros ya les proporcionamos algo para algún niño que se lastimó. Afortunadamente, el tiempo que tengo son muy pocos los niños que se han lastimado. En el calor, alguno que otro que sí se ha puesto un poquito mal, pero son muy pocos. Por eso es que usan la aseguranza ellos, porque nosotros nada más cobramos parte de lo que es de los $40, es también para su aseguranza. El número de jugadores. No traje mis lentes para ver, así que si les doy un número alto o bajito, es que no veo, ¿eh? El número de jugadores registrados en la liga de niños son 1,109 hasta ahorita, y adultos 1,527. Y el número de equipos en la liga son 70 equipos de niños y 51 de adultos. También en esos mismos niños de 1,109 van incluidos los niños que pagan por 3 veces por estar en otras divisiones. Entonces, pero también se les cuenta en el equipo que están. Se cuentan 3 veces porque están en 3 divisiones. Y luego el número de equipos en la liga son 70 equipos de niños y 51 de adultos. Aproximadamente de los residentes de aquí de Coachella tenemos unos 1,200 aproximadamente entre niños y adultos. Creo que esas son todas las preguntas. Si hay algo que preguntarme, pues aquí estoy.
Any questions?
¿Cobran más para el seguranza? ¿Para tener seguranza?
Va incluido con los 40.
Los 40.
Sí.
Okay. Y es una, ¿cómo dice? ¿Es un seguranza de médico o?
No, es la ability, la que nos pide la ciudad.
So it's insurance
Ability.
you guys need. Okay.
Casi todos los niños tienen su aseguranza de ellos y por eso les digo, casi no le hemos ocupado ni ellos ni nosotros porque es del 2009, son muy poquitos los que han sido lastimados. Donde se lastiman un poquito más son los adultos porque ya saben, esta cosa más un poquito más brusco todo, ¿verdad?
Le tengo una pregunta. Cuando lo de la ciudad de que no les estuvo cobrando lo de la luz y eso, yo sé que una liga no les estuvo cobrando la fee de los jugadores y la de ustedes sí. ¿Cuál fue el motivo de que uno sí pudo y el otro no?
No entiendo muy bien la pregunta. A ver.
Como cuando ve que a la ciudad no les estuvo cobrando la fee de los campos. Yo sé que a un equipo, una liga ya no le cobró a los jugadores la fee para jugar, y la de ustedes yo sé que sí cobró. Yo sé que la ciudad lo hizo para ayudarle a los niños porque en ese tiempo de COVID, yo sé que estuvo muy difícil para mucha gente. Nomás queríamos saber por qué fue.
Bueno, en primer lugar, yo seguí ahí pagando unos campos de la 53. Hubo muchas deudas que se quedaron a causa de la pandemia. Entonces, cuando la ciudad nos dijo que nos iba a dar los campos gratis, para mí fue una alegría porque yo no tenía vacaciones, nada, tenía que sacar para hacer los pagos de cada mes porque no me completaba. Si eran 45 allá de agua, 45 allá acá de campos, casi eran 9,000 nomás para pagar eso. Entonces tenía que yo trabajar todo el año, no tenía vacaciones. Y la que me dio más gusto fue a mí, porque dijeron, este año no vamos a cobrar los campos. El hecho de que no hayan pagado la otra liga, pues quisiera que la otra liga dijera aquí que no pagó, porque yo tengo todos los jugadores de aquella liga juegan en esta y les cobraron. Ellos dijeron que no, pero sí les cobraron. Los mismos jugadores de allá juegan acá. Y hasta unos se enojaron porque, ¿por qué dijiste en el radio o les anunciaste que no ibas a cobrar y nos estás cobrando hasta más que la otra liga? Aquí hay personas que están también influyentes, están en la otra liga. Entonces yo dije, vas a bajar, ¿no? Pues, ¿cómo quieren que baje? Tengo deudas de la pandemia. Si son $40 por todo el año, pues, ¿qué quieren que les regale? Y aquí los niños, no por nada, pero están acostumbrados a su trofeo bien, sus medallas bien, campeón goleador, campeón del portero menos vencido. Entonces, hay gastos, hay gastos. Y aquí somos non-profit, pero desgraciadamente estamos en la ciudad de Coachella, donde todos quieren, sí te ayudo, pero ¿cuánto me pagas? Para todos se paga. Es nada más decir non-profit porque no debemos de tener personal que dé gratis su tiempo, pero no lo hay. Entonces eso me gustaría que estuvieran las demás personas, y hay equipos, como les vuelvo a repetir, están en aquel lado y de y jamás, siempre les cobraron, nunca dejaron de cobrarles.
Gracias, y por lo mismo igualmente hago la pregunta porque es mejor escucharlo de que usted haya venido, porque yo sé que hemos a veces tratado de que venga, y yo sé que no vino varias veces. Igualmente es mejor a veces, como dice, ella nos está presentando ahorita.
Pero es la
La
primera vez
situación
que
es
me
buena.
invitan aquí, es la primera vez que me invitan. Yo cada invitación que me dan aquí, yo me vengo con gusto, porque yo quisiera poner mi punto de vista. E incluso antes nos ponían a hablar con personas y veníamos a exponer todo lo que teníamos en la liga, qué es lo que nos molestaba o qué no estaba bien. Y me gustaba, pero ya tiene tiempo que no. Pero si a mí me invitan, claro que a mí me interesa que ustedes sepan lo que está pasando en la liga.
Sí, invita a ustedes y sus campeones para tener una foto aquí con nosotros y a gusto. O sea,
Tenemos una sola foto cuando salieron los muchachos campeones nacionales, aquí cuando estaba, tenían como 12 años, y a partir de ahí ya nos han invitado. Es más, yo invito a las personas para que vayan a los campos, nos ayuden a dar las medallas a los campeones, y no se presentan, pero alguna razón tendrán, ¿verdad? Pero sí, me encantaría que si nos invitan, con mucho gusto venimos y les presentamos a los niños, que la ciudad de Coachella tiene el nivel muy alto de soccer.
Sí.
Y a partir de que nosotros metimos la liga a Cal Sound, nos afiliamos, de ahí se dieron cuenta a todos lados que Coachella era el número 1 en soccer. Y vienen a buscar jugadores. Y aquí tengo una persona que anda allá todavía con sus jugadores, y los llaman porque dicen Coachella es el mejor del soccer. Y en eso, pues sí, yo creo que sí tienen que ver ustedes que el soccer está muy arriba, y ahorita está mencionado en todos lados Coachella por el soccer.
So, yo creo que nosotros necesita trabajar juntos para tener más campeones
Así es,
de aquí de Coachella.
así es.
Sí, luego yo pienso que aquí todos los de aquí vamos a estar un poco más involucrados. Yo sé cuando tú lo de joven no se hizo mucho, no se movió nadie igualmente, porque igualmente era muy difícil. Yo estuve en la commission de antes, cuando trataba con usted y se cortaban mucho las llamadas, y yo me acuerdo ese día tampoco no nos comunicamos
Sí,
muy bien. Pero sí, igualmente, le digo, si nos invitan, vamos con placer, le digo, igualmente ya mi hijo ya va a jugar y por eso estoy un poquito más involucrado, porque yo nací, bueno, yo tengo aquí desde el 2000 en Coachella, ya son 23 años y me encanta todo lo que han hecho. Y sí, siempre he escuchado de amigos de Los Ángeles, vienen los de Coachella, vienen los de Coachella,
Así es.
ahí como a Redlands y esas áreas, donde hay también jugadores buenos, pues dicen, o sea, como dicen, se asustan cuando dicen vienen los de Coachella.
Sí, porque ellos tienen academias, nosotros no tenemos academia, solamente un club, pero viene de una liga amateur. Y cuando van y les ganan, pues sí se enojan porque ellos pagan mucho por ser academia y pensar que unos equipos que no son de academia les ganen. Y debe ser un orgullo de aquí de Coachella de tener este nivel de soccer.
Pues puede contar con nosotros, tiene un nuevo comité y con mucho gusto invítenos y ahí vamos a estar.
Gracias, gracias.
Sí, de hecho creo que dio muy buenas ideas, Eda, y todos estamos de acuerdo estar allí. Y claro, no sé si hablo por todos, pero como miembros aquí de la comunidad de parques y recreación, venga, está invitada
Es
cuando quiera,
importante que los niños vean a alguien de la ciudad, ¿verdad?
de su voz igual, ¿verdad?
En los campos, como cuando salen de Calzab, campeones, pues ir a entregar una medalla miembros de aquí de ustedes. Es bien importante. Para ellos luego preguntan quién son, son de la ciudad, y se sienten contentos que alguien de la ciudad vaya, que los está tomando en cuenta.
Y a mí me daría un placer estar ahí. En parte, soy parte de la comunidad, soy crecida, nacida, trabajo para la comunidad también. Y entonces he conocido todo lo del Valle y con mucho gusto yo estaré ahí.
Encantado, ojalá que ahorita que me vayan me puedan dar sus tarjetas y con gusto yo les hablo para si alguno puede de ustedes, cuando entreguemos medallas de campeones. Vamos a empezar la costa y es bien importante para esos niños seguirlos motivando, ¿verdad?
Sí.
¿Todo?
Muchas
pregunta
gracias.
más?
No, yo preguntas no.
¿No?
Questions?
No.
Ok, muchísimas gracias.
De nada.
Uh, So we're going into
Number
recommendation.
6.
Yeah. Recommend approval of 2023-2025 memorandum, cannot pronounce that word. Memorandum of understanding between the city of Coachella and Desert Recreation District.
And I apologize, I was acting as your clerk at the last meeting and I did not take an action on this item. So I placed it just back on. It's the same item that we reviewed at the last meeting. So if you'll bear with me, essentially, simply asking for an action to be taken on recommending the approval of the MOU with the Desert Recreation District for this year and the next. Really what you're approving is the collaboration for continued use of the Bagduma Community Center by the Desert Recreation District and the summer programming that we discussed at the last meeting, which is the movies in the park, the free swim passes and the summer camps. Happy to answer any questions of the commission on this item.
I remember last time we talked about it, we talked about how the community finds out about these events. And I think you said that there was 2 different ways. You get a lot of traffic through social media and then something was sent out, right?
I do believe the Desert Recreation District actually mailed out the brochure
Mhm.
to all households. So the swim passes are in there, the movies in the park is in there, and the scholarship, the summer camp information is in there.
Great.
In addition, we do postings on Instagram and Facebook, and then we have our website.
Mhm. So I got to attend one of the last movies at the parks
Mhm.
and it was really cool.
And actually, we did radio ads for movies in the park,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
and we did ad buys on Facebook as well.
Yeah. And it was a good turnout. There was some technical difficulties with trying to get it operating and
I think the wind was the issue at the very last meeting. We had weather issues.
yeah. Yeah, so that's probably why, it was a good turnout. But I'm always trying to think of like, how do we, try to get more to attend, right? And I know you said that the rec, they send out a yearly.
I think it's quarterly. They have,
Quarterly.
so for basically it's each season of the year, right? They send you, their program for that season and all the different programming and classes that they offer.
So something that I was thinking about, I've seen other cities, nothing locally, but I've seen other cities do was like an event calendar where it kind of maybe once a month gets sent out to residents.
So we actually citywide, we also do a quarterly newsletter and you'll see ours go out actually in June,
Got it.
where we do essentially what you're
Cool.
describing. So you
Okay.
will see that and we'll be getting that out in the next month.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I guess that's my only questions. Thank you.
You're welcome. With that, we'll ask if you can do a motion on this item. So you'll need a first and a second, if there is a motion.
Motion to approve.
And I can do second.
And on this one, Madam Clerk, if you'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Granados,
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero,
Aye.
Commissioner Avila,
Aye.
Commissioner Hernandez,
Aye.
Commissioner Gallegos,
Abstain.
and alternate Commissioner Ayala.
Aye.
Motion passes.
That takes us to public comment.
Any public comments?
Yes, we have Ricardo Valencia who wants to speak under public comments.
Hello, my name is Ricardo Valencia. I was I've been part of CISA for probably already, I don't know, maybe 9 years. I've been in and out of the league, but I came back and help her again because I'm looking at something that it's more like a revolution that's been going on with the leagues. And I mean, I see what I see, and I normally don't talk about it because I don't want no more feud between the leagues. But I think it's going a little too far. I mean, maybe Alma doesn't want me to talk about it or Montaño, but I think we need to stop to this. We fight because we say we don't have field usage for our kids, or it's too many fields. I mean, too little bit of a field for too many players. I mean, I'm not 100% sure. I know 90% maybe, I'm sure. But I know that one time they said something about not subleasing the fields to any other clubs. And one of the reasons that we're getting a lot of people on some of these fields is because I see that we're subleasing to other clubs and other clubs are coming to use our fields, which I don't think it should be appropriate for other people from other cities coming and practice on our fields when we have our Coachella residents. That's one of the things that I want to address. The other one is that I made a UPSL team and I affiliated with another club because we don't have a field that is actually perfect for the UPSL league. And the only field we have here, we cannot have access to, which is field 4 on Bidum. I would like for you guys to go out there whenever I have a game with the UPSL, and it's actually the first UPSL women's team here in Coachella. And it's basically, I mean, 90% out of Coachella because the other 10% is from Fontana. But the only reason why I affiliated with them is because they have a field usage out there, which is a high school. And I would like to see if maybe you guys in the future could get us a high school where we could use, so we have a semi-pro league here, semi-pro team here in the city, not just out there. We got 6 boys right now, actually, yeah, 6 boys that are playing with the team out there. We're affiliated with them. And from time to time, we try to get a home game here for our parents come and see their kids here. I had 3 boys that went with me to Ciudad Juarez not too long ago for tryouts. I was out there for 2 weeks and it was going real well for them. But unfortunately, when they got to the 3rd step, they got caught up and they came back. But that's giving them the opportunity to going out there. But because I'm giving them some other opportunities out there that we don't have here. If we play UPSL locally, believe me, we'll have more kids that are gonna be out there in the pro area instead of just making, reg leagues or our leagues here in the valley. So we could get either a high school or a little bit, I know MOU's already set for not using the field 4. But if we get a little bit more action where we could use field 4 so that even you guys could enjoy a competitive team. We have Chiriaco. They played a Division 1 last year. They became champs and now they're playing Premier, but they have to use either CV or Desert Mirage because we don't have no fields for them. I mean, I don't know how much they're paying, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that you guys would like to see some semi-pro games here in the valley and not just, out there. It's just, we have to see where is it that our time usage is being used here in the valley or in Coachella with Coachella members or players from Coachella and not from Palm Springs, Palm Desert. That's just my point of view. And I'm sorry if I'm gonna start something, but it has to be said. I'm sorry that we're always fighting for fields, but I mean, I don't think it's fair that kids are coming from other areas to use our fields when they have their own fields out there. It's just my point of view. And I'm sorry if we're gonna start something, but I had to say it. Sorry.
Thank you.
Well,
So maybe a question, are these
So-
fields being used during?
During my comments or your comments, we can have that conversation, but not during public
Ah.
comments, because then we're violating.
Oh.
process. Any other public comments?
So we'll move on to report and request.
Yes.
Any commissioner comments? Comments and one.
Right.
We'll go this way, yeah.
Comments in regards to the meeting or just anything, right? Okay, so Ricardo, congratulations, man, on what is that league called again? UPSL. UPSL. And you said that you're having your first game here,
We have a women's team already.
women's team?
Yeah, I actually rented out the field from Maritza and I told her, thank you for letting me borrow it. And actually Natalia asked them too. I asked Alma if we could use field 3.
Mhm.
We used it, but here's one of the reps that actually he uses, he reps UPSL. They were making comments about it being too narrow.
Hmm.
And when they pointed at field 4, I said, it's not, we can't use it. So I was trying to see if somehow, I'm not saying all the time, but at least when we have home games that we could have access to that field. Because they come here and they see the complex that is there, but we can't use it. And nobody's there. I mean, I would understand if it's busy, but it's always there empty. And to give these girls an opportunity, these girls are actually girls that are playing college. But like in COD, they could only play 2 years college and then they can't play no more. They have to go to university or whatever.
Mhm.
So I'm giving these girls that opportunity to keep on playing competitive.
Mhm.
And that's why we want to use field 4. It's not that we want to use it, but UPSL does not let us use it.
Okay.
And actually, Manuel probably had the same issue at once where he couldn't use Rancho de Flores. That's why Chiraco moved to CV and Desert Mirage High School.
Mhm.
Because they need to have standard fields. The only reason why they sent Chiraco there because he went to a higher division, which is Premier in UPSL. And after Premier, there's another division, and of course you need a stadium for that.
Yeah,
We're not gonna ask for a stadium, but a high school would be
course.
good enough,
Of course, so field 4 is
And Commissioner, I think I can speak to some of his questions and
Absolutely.
I'm trying to avoid
Please.
back and forth. So
Absolutely.
you can ask me questions
Uh-huh.
during your comments and we'll try to get back to you either right now but if you have direct dialogue with the public on an item that's not on the agenda, then we're kind of crossing that.
yeah, so how are we handling field 4?
So actually, as Ricardo mentioned, we have been communicating about Field 4 rather frequently, actually, in the last probably month. So Field 4 was one of the items that the council recently moved the use. So during my presentation on the community use days and public use days, if you recall, Field 3 was identified previously. And actually, Jason, can you put my presentation? It'd probably be easier to just speak to the slide. So the public use days are the days that we can't rent it, right? So those, Field 4 was one of those fields that was originally identified as a field that I couldn't rent
Mhm.
out on Fridays and on Saturdays and Sundays after 2. Well, that field is no longer the field. So the field was changed to Field 3 for the specific reason that Ricardo basically mentioned that we were getting requests. So I asked council if we can change it to Field 3. So Field 4 is available for rental now on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Field 3 is not. So if you are looking to do Field 3 and 4, then you're gonna have some challenges, but if you just want 4, then 4 is available.
So they can use it now.
Correct. And we
Okay.
have rented it, actually to Ricardo twice in the last 3 weeks. So in keeping with kind of what we spoke of, it's this slide. So you see it's Field 3 under Bagduma. That field used to be Field 4. But in the last month, it changed.
Okay, beautiful.
That should ease some of the conflict that's happening, right? And I mean, because he's mentioning that there's conflict.
There's no conflict, but the conflict that I think he's referring to is simply that he couldn't rent it.
Ah,
And he couldn't rent it because it was the one set aside for the public, so we weren't taking any reservations or allowing the league to reserve it. So now he could both either reserve it through the league when they pull their monthly permit for use during their season, or he can directly reserve it by coming to the city and pulling a permit.
Okay.
sounds like we're actively moving in the right direction then.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be able to assist
Great,
with the use he's requesting for field four
Cool.
for sure.
Beautiful.
We don't have any obstacles in that.
great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? I have a comment
All
here.
right.
We all were invited to Operation Splash. I was able to go. This was June 3rd, I believe.
Yes.
Through Kaiser, it's a Hill program. And they're able to donate $42,075 to Operation Splash. So it was a good turnout. And hopefully, we're invited to other city events, because I did enjoy myself. I did see these Coachella youth, just jumping into the pool, having fun. And that's what we're here about, having fun in our city. So thank you again for that email.
Yes, Marissa, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
No questions?
Comments?
Comments, sorry. Okay, so now we move on to Public Works Director.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, and thank you again to Commissioner Gallegos for attending and pitch hitting a little bit during the Operation Splash event. Really appreciate your attendance. I did send out a couple other invitations, so I think our next one is we are going to be doing a ribbon cutting for the new basketball / pickleball / tennis courts, which we're excited for in a couple of in about a month. And then we'll have this actually in about a week and a half. We'll be celebrating 4th of July event at Bagduma Park on Saturday the 1st, and we'll send you guys out some more information on that individually as well if you'd like to participate. Did I have any other comments? And I do, my only other comment was I wanted to just provide you a little bit more feedback on the Brown Act training that we did speak slightly about last meeting. So we will send out a link. Our city attorney's firm does have a webinar available that you guys can watch at your leisure. So we'll send that link out this week, and then you guys could get caught up on the Brown Act and what kind of parameters and limitations it provides for public meetings such as this. And other than that, I don't think I have any other updates. At our next meeting, we will bring back the item that the commission requested with regards to Bagduma Field 4 and give you some more information about that one specifically, not so much to regard those comments today, but I think through the prior comment requested to have more discussions about sharing that field. And I wanted to give you some background on the MOU before just bringing that item forward.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all I have.
That's it. So we just adjourn.
Yeah.
So adjourn me at 5:33.